YouTube? How is y'all's day going? Today we have another trade candidates video because the trade deadline is coming up once again, like I've mentioned every single video. It is October 31st, Halloween, so we should be seeing some trades happening soon. Usually it's pretty silent every single year, but I think this year there's a chance to have some rumblings. There's a lot of teams that are either doing better than expected, that might be buyers, or there's teams that aren't doing as good as expected, but they're good enough to make the playoffs, might want to grab another piece and push forward. So if you guys are new, please do me a huge favor. We haven't even hit 100 subscribers yet. Go hit that subscribe button, like button, comment, anything helps. And if you guys are not following me on TikTok and Twitter, please go down in the link in the description, and I am much more active on there. So not much else, let's get to it. All right, so I have 12 candidates today. I give 3 teams that I think are a possibility, a sleeper team, a team that I think is more, probably more unlikely than the 3 that I've listed, but one that I still think is very possible. And then I have their trade value, what I estimate their trade value to be, what I think that they'll be going for. So I have Lawson here for the New York Jets. He is on his contract year, so he will be a free agent next year. They haven't gotten a whole lot out of him. The first year that they had him coming from the Bengals, they signed him in free agency. He got injured. I think it was a torn Achilles, I believe, out for the season. Before, I think it was in training camp too, before the season even started. But he is a very talented edge rusher. I don't think he'll fetch for too much, honestly, and that's what's good, is I think that teams that just need a little bit of an upgrade there, like the Seattle Seahawks, like the Lions, like the Jaguars, which I'll explain the Jaguars a little bit in a second, or the Texans. This is somebody that you can go out and get for a 4th or a 5th, maybe even less. I would not be shocked if it was less. I really wouldn't. But Lawson, yeah, I think the Jets are trying to make a push, so who knows if they are even willing to trade him, but I think it might be smart depending on where the rest of their season is kind of heading. So yeah, Lawson, Seattle Seahawks, they have Boye Mafe. He's doing his thing. Pete Carroll seems to really like him, but I don't think the Seahawks realize that they're in a very competitive division. They just lost to the Bengals. Once you start facing some of these better offensive lines, I think that the Seahawks are going to start to realize that they kind of have a problem at edge rusher. Nwosu's doing really good, but I think grabbing someone like Lawson, opposite side of him, would really help, and then kind of have Boye as a rotational piece would be really good. Lions, same kind of thing. The Aiden Hutchinson is a beast right now. He's doing a really good job of especially just getting pressure, so getting Lawson opposite side of him, just a little bit of an upgrade right there. Get that edge rush going a little bit more would be smart. Jaguars, they actually don't, it's not necessarily that they don't have a good edge rush, it's it seems to be inconsistent sometimes. The Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. Josh Allen isn't inconsistent. Trayvon Walker seems like he's still kind of finding his way. They obviously play him in several different spots, but I just think having another guy in there, rotational, that's very solid, would be really good for them. And Lawson too, he's definitely big enough to play on the inside as well. Their inside is definitely a little bit weaker. So, and then the Texans is pretty obvious. Jerry Hughes and Will Anderson are both playing very well, but Lawson is an upgrade. So I think that the Texans could be a very realistic option to go out there and get him. Next up, we have KJ Osborne. I don't think this one will happen, if I'm being completely honest, but nonetheless, he is a trade candidate. He is in a contract year, and the Vikings seem very much open to being sellers. So I do have the Bills. I think the Bills have been needing a wide receiver too for a long time. A lot of people don't want to say that because they think of Gabe Davis and stuff like that, and they have Khalil Shakir and stuff, and there's some solid talent there, but I think KJ Osborne is more of a solidified wide receiver 2. You have Gabe Davis more as a slot, and then obviously Diggs is your wide receiver 1. I think that is a real option. I think KJ could probably go for a 4th. I could see a 5th too, but I think 4th is probably the most realistic because I think that the Vikings aren't super keen on maybe moving on from him. But I honestly think it'd be smart. Bills there. Bengals, yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be like, why are the Bengals on here? But Tyler Boyd is a free agent next year. KJ Osborne kind of reminds me of a Tyler Boyd. A little bit bigger, though. So I think that, KJ Osborne getting, kind of as a replacement, he's younger. A very similar play style, in my opinion, to Tyler. The Bengals get younger there and don't have to give up too much. And they can let Boyd walk. The Saints, yeah, Saints are in need of a wide receiver. It's really plain as day. I feel like people don't talk about it though. They do need a wide receiver. Rashid Shaheed is very talented. I feel like he's more of a big playability wide receiver than a consistent reliability. Michael Thomas, who knows when he's going to get injured next. And then Chris Olave is obviously phenomenal. So I think KJ Osborne might be something if they're trying to make a playoff push, just adding a little bit more to that receiver room. Sleeper team is the Panthers. I really, really doubt that because the Panthers seem like they're really trying to go for like a true wide receiver one. KJ Osborne is not that and probably never will be. And that's not hating on him. He's very talented, but I just don't think he is wide receiver one capable. So Jeremy Chinn, yeah, I think this one's very realistic, actually, that Jeremy Chinn does end up getting traded. He's kind of had a little bit of I feel like he's a little bit overrated. The stats aren't necessarily there for him, but I think it's also because the Panthers move him around a lot. They try to put him in the slot, they'll put him in the box sometimes, they put him out in coverage, and I think he truly is just better out in coverage, and I think if you have him more of just as a coverage safety, he'll flourish there. So I do have the Texans here. They are rolling with Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie right now. I think that'd be a young asset for them to go pick up. I think the Texans are absolutely open on the trade market right now. I think that they are very eager to upgrade this team, make sure that they make the playoffs. And I think that, D'Amico Ryans being a defensive-minded head coach coming from the 49ers, that if there is a good piece to get there and the value's there, that he will absolutely go out and get that. I expect the Texans to at least make one defensive trade before the trade deadline. So could be wrong about that, but that's just my opinion. The Eagles have proven in the past that they like to go out and get a safety. Reed Blankenship is on IR, I believe, right now. Who knows how he's doing. Reed Blankenship's been pretty solid, but, who's the other safety? Damn it, I just forgot. Edmonds. Jeremy Chinn would definitely be an upgrade over Edmonds for sure, in my opinion. Edmonds is honestly more of like a linebacker at safety. So I think Jeremy Chinn would be a really good pickup for the Eagles. And then the Chiefs as well. They actually have a really loaded safety squad. So this is just one of those things where I think that they get younger, might be able to move on from someone like Mike Edwards, who's actually doing really good for them. But he is getting older. Jeremy Chinn, a little bit of a boom or bust trade. See how well he does. The Bears, Eddie Jackson, man. Statistically not doing well. I think he's another safety that's gotten very overrated. Yeah, I don't know. Eddie Jackson, it seems like it's a pretty real possibility that they move on from him in the future. I think Jeremy Chinn would be a good fit with the Bears defense. Keep him out in coverage a little bit more, and then you got Chinn and Brisker for the future. And I do value him at around a third or a fourth. I think that he could go again for later. It just kind of depends on how many teams are interested in him. But I do expect with his age, because he is only 25 heading into free agency, contract year for him, and then the Panthers are probably most likely sellers. That I do think that if there's not too many teams biting, it could be a fourth or a fifth. I think if there's a lot of teams biting, that it might, I doubt it, but it might get up to a second. But I think the more realistic value is that he's a third or a fourth, and I would probably say more honestly towards a fourth, in my opinion. Next up, we have Chase Young. Oh my gosh. They did not pick up his fifth-year option, so that means he's in a contract year. Chase Young, phenomenal player. He led, not this week, but the past week, he led edge rushers and pressures. He's doing very well. He's had some injuries that have kept him off the field, but his first year that he came in, he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Extremely talented, extremely physical beast. So I think that, I honestly, the more and more I talk about him, I think it's really unlikely that he gets traded. But if he does, that would be a huge addition to any of those teams. And obviously, as a Falcons fan, I would love it. I would absolutely love it if he were to get traded to us. But the Texans, again, I think that D'Amico Ryans would be all over that for a third-round pick. And I put plus because I think it's probably a little bit higher value. I would say it's probably equates to a second-round pick in value. So whether that's third and a decent player, or a third and maybe a fifth, or a third and a fourth, I could see that happening. But I think D'Amico Ryans would be all over that, rolling with Young and Will Anderson as the duo for the future. I think he'd be all over that. The Falcons have been needing an edge rusher for God knows how long. Probably Super Bowl year with Vic Beasley, and even then that was a one-year wonder. So, that. And then the Rams were very in on Brian Burns. Chase Young will definitely be cheaper than Brian Burns if he were to be traded, and I think that they'd be absolutely love to have him off the edge for them. And so the Bears are there too. I kind of put the Bears there. I think this is more of a future move for them. I think they would trade for him and then sign him to an extension. And this wouldn't necessarily be a winning move this season, but just a move for the future. Kind of like what I said with the Panthers doing with Bryce Young trading for a wide receiver one, because the Panthers I guarantee you the Panthers are not trying to make themselves contenders right now, but making a move for the future when there are wide receivers that are available, like Marquise Brown, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, stuff like that. So there's Chase Young. Mike Evans, another one that I highly doubt because the Bucs are doing good this season, but it is a contract year. They did. There has been some rumblings with his agent and Mike Evans being kind of, not so enthusiastic about not receiving even. I don't even think that they've received an offer. So you never know there. I don't know what the Bucs want. I don't know if they're wanting to contend. I don't know. I truly think that they are just on the borderline. They're a couple pieces away from being absolutely terrible. Really, Baker's play is what's holding them to be decent right now. And if that goes away, if Baker just stops being who he is and goes back to who he was, then I think that the Bucs absolutely are a huge chance to be trading Mike Evans away. So it might be something to look out for, but I doubt it. But I do have the lines here. Amon-Ra St. Brown's such a gadget player. They love to use him. I think he'd be probably one of the most talented wide receiver twos we would ever see, and I think that they would really like that. They got Jameson Williams for the slot and just as an outside receiver, very dominant deep threat, great speed, but I think going and getting that polished veteran for that receiver room, somebody that is a go up and get it contested catcher like Mike Evans, a reliable red zone threat for Jared Goff. This really would, I truly think that out of all the moves that they can make, getting a guy like Mike Evans would push the Lions over the hump and become very, very solidified Super Bowl contenders. So I would love if that happened. Kansas City's on here. Not really fits their type of style of receiver, but obviously would be a great weapon for Mahomes in a struggling receiving room. And then the Texans are here too. Texans have lots of talented receivers in the room, but no one is even close to being a solidified wide receiver one. You get that wide receiver one with Mike Evans. You get Stroud matched up with, again, a very good contested catch, reliable red zone threat, and that'll push the Texans back into 100% playoff contention, in my opinion. And then I do have the Ravens on here. It's a chance. It's a chance. I feel like the Ravens have started off like worse than what most people have expected and probably themselves have expected. And I think that if, like OBJ's kind of had some injuries here and there, like small ones, but has been able to kind of stay on the field. Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, Zay Flowers, getting Mike Evans would be a huge upgrade. And I do think that since they do have to pay him, Mike Evans seems like he's asking for a decent bit, that I think a third round pick is actually where his value is, even though he is an older receiver. He stayed with his production, so you really can't argue it. Garrett Bowles, yes, this one. Garrett Bowles, I think that if somebody trades for him, the teams that I really have here, except for the Jags, this is more of a move for the future. So, for example, the Panthers, that's definitely a move for the future, in my opinion. I don't think that that's a move for contention, obviously. But their offensive line is really struggling, and I actually love this move for the Panthers. And the reason why is that they have Kemakwanu, who I was very big on. He's not adjusting to that tackle rule, but I am 99% sure that if you put him at guard, which they're struggling on the inside, they're struggling at the tackle, that he would kill it. So if you get Garrett Bowles, you put him there at left tackle, you make a move for the future, you put a Kemakwanu, that might fix your offensive line issue. It might. I think it realistically very well could. Taylor Moton's a very talented right tackle, so then you have Bowles and Moton, and then you have a Kemakwanu at left or right guard, probably left guard. And yeah, I mean, it very much helps, especially with what's his name, Zavala, who's been probably the worst guard in the NFL, the worst starting guard in the NFL. So yeah, I think that would be a huge move for them, and I think it'd be extremely smart, especially because I don't think Garrett Bowles is going to go for too much, because historically, older aging tackles, even if they're very talented, have been going for way less. You look at who just got traded, Trent Brown, which he can be inconsistent, but he's still a very talented tackle, going from the Raiders to the Patriots. There's been a lot of Rodney Hudson. I think he went for like a fifth to the Ravens. Like the offensive linemen just don't get traded for too much. The Commanders, their offensive line is struggling right now too. Yeah, I think it'd be really smart for them. I think it might push them maybe to playoff contention. They're a lot better team than what people realize. And then the Jags, another struggling offensive line, not terrible. They have Cam Robinson. They have what's his name? Anton Harrison, I believe. Gosh, that doesn't sound right. Hold on. It is Anton Harrison. I was right. I don't know why that didn't sound right for a second. Anton Harrison, maybe this is something where they move on from Cam Robinson. He is under contract, so he will be a 2025 free agent, so not this year, but next year. Might be something worth. I think Bowles is definitely an upgrade. And then a sleeper team I have is the Titans, and I would really like this for the Titans too, because they did get Dillard from the Eagles, but I think if you move Dillard opposite into right tackle, he'll do great there, and then you have Bowles right there, so you might have your tackles set for at least a couple of years, and then try to work with whatever QB that you want to choose between Willis or Levis. But another reason why the Broncos should do this, and I know it's not about the Broncos, but a reason that the Broncos should definitely do this is that they save $13.8 million, and they need to save that money, and they need to be selling. Even getting a 5th or a 6th is worth it, especially when you're saving this much money. Garrett Bowles does not seem happy to be there. When they interviewed him on one of the most recent losses, he says, "I'm really sick and tired of this shit. I've been here for, I think it was 5 years, and all I've done is lost," So that pretty much tells you where he is with the Broncos. Derek Barnett did request a trade at the beginning of the season. Eagles have a ton of pass rushers that they just rotate, So Derek Barnett, it seems like he wants out. Might not want to now, but it's definitely still a possibility. So again, I have a lot of the same similar teams. I do have the Lions and the Saints and the Falcons. Saints and Falcons are at the bottom of the league for pressures and sacks. Lions are doing great, but could use another rotational guy like this. Throw him in with Romeo and Julia Aquara and Josh Pascal. And I don't think he's going to fetch much value. Like, I think that it's more closer to a 5th, if I'm being honest with you. And he is in a contract year. So, and then I do have the Bucks. So I have 3 teams from the NFC South. I do have the Bucks because the Bucks pass rush is actually not doing as well as what you'd expect them to be, honestly. Buda Baker. This one I really doubt. I'm just going to put it out there. I very much doubt it. He did put in a trade request at the beginning of the season. He is in a contract year. I think that he's coming around to the idea of, kind of leading this defense going in the future with this whole rebuild going on. I think he might like Jonathan Gannon. But if not, the Eagles, again, have been big buyers in safeties. Buda Baker runs a lot of cover 3 and has been very dominant there. Not Buda Baker, the Cardinals do. And so almost all of these teams run a lot of cover 3 as well, except for the Jags, I believe. I believe they're the one that's kind of the outlier there. But the Chargers, I think, either one, Derwin James and Buda are such talented safeties that I think you can put one at the free and one at the strong, or just keep swapping them, like whatever. I think that Derwin is probably a little bit more flexible, where you could probably put him at strong safety and Buda Baker free safety. But imagine rolling through with that Chargers defense having undoubtedly the best safety duo in the league. That'd be amazing. The Eagles, like I said, I think that they would definitely, this would definitely be a Super Bowl move for them. And the Jags, Andre Cisco is pretty good. I'm not really convinced about Wingard. I'm not really convinced about Jenkins or any of the other safeties that they have. I think Buda Baker would be a big upgrade for this Jags secondary, who is honestly mediocre. It just straight up is. They're okay. They're good. They're good enough to get the job done. There can be upgrades that can be made. And then I have the Bills here, which they obviously have they probably do have the most talented safety duo in the league. But I do think that if you trade for Buda, I think it's Poyer, or it might be Hyde. It's one of the two. Their contract is up this season, so they will be a free agent next year. You get much younger here. You get very talented. But yeah, I do think Buda Baker will go for a 2nd plus. I don't know if it would be first round equivalent. It might be like a 2nd and a 5th or a 6th or something like that, or a 2nd and a decent player, who knows. But I think that if he does go, it will be for a pretty damn decent price tag. Adoree Jackson, I think this one's actually pretty realistic. I do have the Chargers here. They trade J.C. Jackson away. Asante Samuel's pretty solid, but Adoree Jackson, very talented corner that I think would actually fit in with the Chargers defense and their scheme pretty damn well. They could definitely use it. That secondary is kind of struggling right now. The Cowboys, lost Trayvon Diggs, might be, obviously a interdivisional trade here, but the Giants are sellers. They're not playing well right now. I think it'd be smart for them to go and trade away someone like that, especially since he's an expiring deal. Seahawks too. Obviously Witherspoon's really solid and Tariq Woolen's very solid, but after that, they moved Kobe Bryant to safety. They're playing him more safety snaps. Which I honestly kind of like. I think he's doing pretty solid there. But I think Jackson, as a veteran, as a more polished veteran, having him in the rotation at least would be really smart. And again, I don't think he's going to fetch for much. I could see him going for a damn 7th, but I think he's a little bit more talented than that, so I think he'll at least command a 5th. And then I do have the Bengals. Their secondary is kind of struggling right now. I thought about them for safeties as well, for the safeties that I have on here, but I think that the Bengals could use this outside of Chidobe Awuzie and Cam Taylor-Britt and stuff like that. Jaylen Johnson. Man, it seems like they really like Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson a lot. Jaylen Johnson's he's an extremely talented corner, but it seems like he's losing something. I don't know if it's a coaching change. I don't know what's going on there. But it doesn't seem like they're too keen on him, and I think they would have re-signed him by now. If so, he's on expiring. So I have the Chargers here. I think that the most ideal place, for him as far as scheme, I think would probably be the Ravens. But I think that the Chargers would love to have a guy like Jaylen Johnson, have Johnson and Asante Samuel. That would be a huge move for them. Huge move for them. I do have the Steelers here as well. They have Levi Wallace. They have Pat Pete. The only one that really seems like they have a move for the future is JPJ, Joey Porter Jr. So you roll with Jaylen Johnson, Joey Porter Jr. And then I do have the Cowboys here. I think this is more of if they do move like this, it's more likely that they move him from Gilmore, who I think is in a contract year as well. And then you move with Johnson and Diggs as your future. And then, this year in the playoffs, you have Johnson and Gilmore. But yeah, I definitely think that if Jaylen Johnson gets traded, that he will command at least a 2nd-round pick. I think he would have commanded more if he's been more consistent. But as of late, it seems like he's struggling just a tad bit. Xavier McKenna. Oh my gosh, I love Xavier McKenna. Definitely think he can fetch a 2nd. I definitely think he can. Giants might not want to move on from him. It is a contract year. Most of the guys on here are a contract year. Bengals. They lost both of their safeties. It's the only thing that's a little bit conflicting about me having the Bengals on here, which I definitely thought about, is that they didn't value safety in the past. They took them. They definitely valued them in the draft, but when it came time to pay them, they didn't want to. So does that mean that they swap, Jesse Bates for Xavier McKenna? I don't really know. That's kind of weird, but maybe they realize now, wow, we should not have let those guys go, So Xavier McKenna, it'd be a little bit of a weird one, but the Bengals seem like they're really frustrated that they aren't playing as well as they should be. I think Xavier McKenna would be a big boost to that defense. The Colts really aren't active in the trade market. They really never are. A lot of times I really expect them to be, and they aren't. And now that Anthony Richardson's out, it seems like a less likely move. But I still have them on here for a reason. And I think it'd be an upgrade. Their safeties are they're solid. They have Cross and Blackman. But McKinney's definitely an upgrade over those guys. So maybe they trade for him. He's younger, 25 years old. Pay him, that might be a good upgrade for that Colts defense. And then the Packers, they have Darnell Savage, but they let go of Adrian Amos. They have kind of a hole at safety, to be honest with you. They kind of have a hole there. Get younger, get better. I think that's realistic. The Rams, they've lost. They lost Taylor Rapp. They've let go of a lot of their safeties in the past, actually. So I think that, picking up someone like Xavier McKenna, the Rams have always been active in the trade market. We've seen it time and time again. In fact, almost all their players that they get, not literally, but almost all their players that they got pretty much for the Super Bowl, they traded for. Last one of the video, I have DJ Jones, another smart move. He is not in a contract year. Another smart move for the Broncos. Going to talk about that really quick. They will save $10 million by trading him. DJ Jones, not the same player that he was on the 49ers, but I think that might just be because he's a part of the Broncos. The Bills, they're struggling run defense a little bit. Could use someone that gets a little bit pressure. Ever since Daquan Jones went down for the Bills, they've been struggling just a tad bit on that, especially on the run defense. So that might be something to look at. The Jets, I think the Jets also could use some more interior defensive line guys, and then the Dolphins for sure. Their interior defensive linemen. I was looking for teams, and I was like, man, who do I not have in here that's a contender that make like a small move? I looked at the Dolphins interior defensive linemen, and I was like, you know what? They could really use a guy like DJ Jones. It would be really good to stop the run right there. And their edge rush has kind of been, and this might help their edge rush beneficially as well, because their edge rush the past couple of weeks has not been dominant as the first couple of weeks. So DJ Jones, I think, would be a really ideal. If I had to pick one team on here that I think would benefit from the most, it'd actually probably be the Dolphins. I think it'd be a really smart move for them, and I don't think you have to give up that much. A 5th or a 6th round pick is a really good deal for them. And then I do have the Steelers on here. You know, they obviously have drafted some younger guys there. Cameron Hayward, I think, is out right now. Keanu Benton and stuff like that. But the other guys, man, other than that, getting someone like DJ Jones that helps with that run stoppability, Steelers might be a team that can sneak in the playoffs. This might be their like little push there. And again, you're not trading too much for him. So, yeah, that is going to be it for the video, guys. Like I said before, if you guys aren't already subscribed, please do so. It would help out a ton. That is going to be it for the video. You guys stay safe and God bless.